Right guys, the time has come to show you some real boring and technical stuff. This time I'll show you how to make an engine, or what I do to make an engine and where I get the values. Less talking, more action. Let's get straight to it. I'm gonna make it in short little step-by-step parts so it's easier to follow and kinda break it down the process. The engine that we're gonna be making is a 426 Hemi. Yep, just for today. Don't blame me. Out of a 1970 Dodge Charger RT. For that, I'm gonna use a website called automobilecatalyst.com. I think I talked about it before. We're gonna find this car in there, 1970 Dodge Charger RT, 426 Hemi, 4-speed manual transmission. We're gonna click on that. Stop right there. Also, I'm gonna use these websites. You can copy the links: allpar.com, Legendary Dodge, and this guy right here, Cotown Mopars. Anyway, enough of that. Basically, the first step is to find your information, and our main guy is gonna be right here. This is our website. Then I want you to grab a notebook and a pen, or open up a file like this, and I want you to make 3 lines. 1 line, 2 line, 3 lines. This is gonna be it for right now. This is step number 1. Stay tuned for step number 2. We're gonna fill this with our RPM. This is gonna be RPM 1, RPM 2, and RPM 3. Alright, here we go. Step number 2. To get our RPMs, we go back to our website, and then we click on engine horsepower and torque curve right here. Once that loads, it is quite simple to get our RPM. Now follow me right here. RPM 1 is gonna be 0, always. This is our initial torque, how much torque we make at the start. Now RPM 2 is gonna be our maximum torque RPM. You see right here how much torque we're making, 490 feet of torque at 4000 RPM. This will be your first number. 4000 RPM right here. This is our max torque. 490 torque. Just write it down somewhere. 490. Now our second RPM is going to be our max horsepower. This is our max horsepower right here. 425 horsepower. We're making it 5000 RPM. This will be your second number right here, RPM 3. 5000 RPM we got for our max horsepower, 4000 for max torque, 0 RPM for initial. Now the next step I want you to make is I want you to draw 2 more lines, 1 and 2. Pretty simple, right? This is gonna be our horsepower, and this is gonna be our torque. Now I want you to write down what we got from those specs. At 4000 RPM we are making 490 feet of torque. We don't know how much horsepower we're making just yet. This is for step 3. Now at 5000 RPM we know that we are making 425 horsepower, and we don't know the torque. We're gonna deal with that as well. Now for torque 1, we don't know horsepower, nor we know torque. This is where we're at right now. Now the numbers that we're gonna need for step 4 after the next one are only these 3, but more on this later. I'm gonna kill it right here. Make sure you follow up till here. You got your RPMs, you got your maximum torque and maximum horsepower in this little tablet looking thing like that. Alright, and for step number 3 we're gonna need to do a little bit of math. Ooh, don't get scared, bear with me here. We're gonna open up Google and we're gonna type in simple 4 letters, BMEP. Search for that, and then we're gonna look for the website that's called EPIENG.com. You'll find it, it's right here. This will explain the whole BMEP thing that we've been calculating instead of torque. This is the formula, but we're going to use it for step 4, not right now. For right now, we're going to click on Mechanics Basics, and we're going to click on Horsepower and Torque. And here is our formula. Take a look at that. Copy this guy right there where you're working. Somewhere here, let's say. Copy this. I hope you are capable of performing this mathematical equation and, you know, flip-flopping the parts, finding horsepower or finding torque. Now let's do our calculations for our maximum torque. This would be the guy right here. Simple. We're looking for horsepower, right? This is it right here. So horsepower equals, let me open up my calculator. We don't need to do any reformation of the formula. We straight just input the numbers. Our torque is 490 torque times the RPM. What's our RPM that we're doing? 4000 RPM. That's very freaking simple. There you go. And then we divide it by this factor of 52. And approximately to this formula we are making 373 horsepower. I'm gonna input this number right here, 373 horsepower. We don't need that number at all for the future, but we just want to know how much horsepower we make, just so you know we got all the numbers right here. Now for the next one, it gets a little bit more complicated. We need to find the torque right here. So in this formula we need to redo it. We need to find the torque. That means, using your brain and a little bit of mathematics, we need to transfer RPM to this side, and that means if we were multiplying, we're going to be dividing by the RPM, and we're going to need to transfer this factor of 52 to the other side, and that's going to change the division to multiplication. So our new formula is going to look like this. Our torque going to equal horsepower. You see we were dividing by 52, but when we move it to the other side, we'll be multiplying by 52. Then we were multiplying by the RPM, but once you move the RPM to the other side, we will be dividing it by the RPM, and this is our formula. Horsepower times the factor of 5252 divided by the RPM will be our torque. I hope your brains didn't go, you know. I hope you're able to do this type of mathematics, guys, and you're not gonna eat me up for being a mathy, but there you go. Let's do the formula. 425 horsepower, we know that, times the factor of 5252, then we divide it by the RPM. How much RPM we got? 5000 RPM, because that's what we're dealing with, the horsepower right now. We divide that by 5000 RPM, and we are making about 446 feet of torque. 446 feet of torque at our 425 maximum horsepower. So the numbers that we got that we're gonna need for the next time, 490 and 446. We don't know torque 1, and the next one I'll show you how to get that one off the torque curve, off the website. Right here, our torque 1 is going to be the initial guy right here. As you can see the mouse, about 300, a little bit less than 325 newtons. We're going to input that one and do our BMEP calculations in the next step 4. I hope that wasn't too crazy. There you go. Here comes, I already forgot which part it is, but the BMEP calculation, the most important part, comes right now. Now what we got, we're looking at our torque 1 that we need to find. It is somewhere around 320 newtons, maybe 315, 320, somewhere around there. That's the approximation. We need some adjustments on these engines. We want to keep them realistically correct, but you know, if you do plus minus a little bit right here on torque 1, I don't think it's a crime. I think that value should be adjustable more or less to kind of tune your numbers down, but without breaking the realism. So we're just gonna go somewhere around 320 newtons. For that we need to calculate the conversion. Newtons per meter 2 foot-pounds. That's the most simple thing. We're gonna use the converter and input somewhere around 320 newtons. Will make us about 236 foot-pounds. We're gonna go back to our paint and our initial at about 236. This is for our calculation. Now remember the BMEP search that we did? Do the same thing. Go back to this website, the EPI ENG, and copy this formula, the BMEP, the pressure formula. Copy this into your working paint thingy. Stretch it so you could read it more or less. And all we have to do is do our calculations. Now bear with me, this is the most important part. It does not involve any RPM. All we're looking for is torque values. There you go, guys. Right here. This is what it's all about. BMEP number 1. We got 236 feet of torque right here. We multiply it by the factor of 150.8, and the guy explains where he gets this number in the website. I'm not gonna go over it. Then we divide it by our displacement. What engine are we making? The 426 cubic inches Hemi. So we divide this number by 426 cubic inches, by the size of the engine. And our first BMEP number is 83. I want you to record that one. 83. This is our first torque 1 value. This is most important values. This is what makes everything work. We got our first one right here. Let's keep on going super fast before we run out of time on this part 1. 490 torque, our max torque. 490 times the factor of 150.8 divided by our size in cubic inches. 426 cubic inches divided by the size. So we're making about 173 foot-pounds of pressure per square inch on the piston area. I don't know if that blew your mind, but this, whatever this is, our number 173. This is our torque 2 in a editor, but what it is really is BMEP number 2. Now let's calculate the last one and be done with it. 446 foot-pounds of torque times, all this math is making my brain go crazy. Then we divide that by the displacement, divide that by 426. You're gonna have your own engine size number, whatever the cubic inches of the engine that you're doing. I hope you understand that. And that comes down to 157. 157. And these are the 3 most important numbers that we are going to use right here. Torque 1, torque 2, and torque 3. I hope you got that. For your engine, they're going to be different. I hope you can follow the math and do your own calculations for your own engine as of right now. Now, also, it's going to ask us about the red line. The way the NASCAR 2003 works and the way their red line is set, we got our maximum horsepower at 5,000. So their red line is going to be plus 300 RPM. You could look it up in the sheets. That's what it's gonna line up. So our red line is gonna be about 5,300. If you cannot find the realistic value for the red line online or anywhere, because it's a little bit hard to find, you could just add 300 RPM for your red line, and this is your red line number right here. Or just look online for the better red line. For this engine, I know it's 5,500 RPM is the red line. I know that, I looked that up. So that's the number I'm gonna be using. But for now, we got all of our performance numbers. We got our maximum horsepower for 25. We got our torque 1, torque 2, torque 3. We got RPM 1, RPM 2, and RPM 3. This will conclude the part 1 of the engine making, the performance stats. The next video is gonna be on where to input the engine size, like the cylinder displacement and blah blah blah, the valves and all that. I'll make a second part of the video on that. For now, stay tuned. This was the most important calculation that makes everything work, makes everything drive, are these BMEP values right here. There you go, guys. This one's on me for free. Some free game for you. See you guys later. Stay tuned for the part 2 where we're gonna finish up the engine dimensions, and then we're gonna input all that stuff in this blank that is available from any car within the car pack, and we'll be done making an engine. Alright, stay tuned.